7 years ago, I decided that I wanted to build a career in web design. I had this immediate love for it, but I had no idea where to actually start. Since then, I've learned so much that I wish someone had told me right at the beginning. Give me the next few minutes and I'll give you 7 years of web design advice. The exact principles that took me from figuring it out as I went to designing 750 websites, including builds for multiple Fortune 500 companies and teaching thousands of other designers along the way. I learned most of this the hard way, so you don't have to. These are the principles that I've watched separate the websites that get clients practically chasing to buy from the ones that get haggled down to nothing. So let's get into it. The first thing that I need you to understand is that a website has one job, not many. If you look at the average business homepage and you count all of the buttons and all of the calls to action, you'll find probably about 5 of them. All of them are competing with each other for attention. There's contact us, book an appointment, learn more, etc. And when everything is equally loud, the easiest thing for a visitor to do is nothing at all. So pick the one thing the page exists to do, make that the most obvious thing on it, and then let everything else get out of the way. Here's the thing, even if you've nailed that one job, it means nothing if the person landing on your page can't immediately tell what you do. And the reason for this is that clarity is what makes people actually take action. If a visitor lands on your page and can't quickly figure out what you do, who it's for, and why they should care, then nothing else really matters. It doesn't matter how good the offer or the design or the testimonials are, they're already gone in the time it takes them to figure out what the website is about. Believe it or not, the clarity almost always lives in the writing. I once changed a client's headline from something that described what the product did, e.g. a feature, to something that said exactly what it was and who it was for, e.g. calling out the visitor and making it abundantly clear that it was for them. That one line did more for the page than every other design decision on it combined. And where that clarity matters most is in the very first thing that a visitor is going to see, because the first scroll decides the entire visit. That opening section of a website, what designers call the hero section, is what determines whether someone stays or whether they leave. And most sites, they lose people in the first 5 seconds because most hero sections only answer 1 or 2 of the questions a visitor is asking. Where am I? What do I actually get here? Why should I care? And what do I do next? The sites that convert well answer all 4 of those instantly. People won't bother trying to figure out what they're here for. So you want to make that as frictionless as possible for them. And the thing doing most of the work in the hero section is going to be the copy. The words on the website will do most of the heavy lifting here. Designers don't always love hearing this, but it's true nonetheless. So on every serious page, the writing comes before the design and not the other way around. The headline is going to make the promise. The subheading is going to earn the click. And then the proof turns interest into trust. A design's job is to make those words land with impact. So give the headline room to breathe and make the CTA impossible to miss. When a client tells me they want their site to look like the competitors, the first thing that I ask is what their competitor's headline actually says. Because if you copy the design but your words are weaker than your competitors, then you've copied the part that doesn't do the selling and then you've skipped the part that actually does. And that instinct to keep adding more is exactly what keeps most sites from looking premium. Because premium is actually about what you remove versus what you add. Most people, they get this backwards. They think premium means adding more sections or some fancy animations, but in reality, it rarely does. A real premium site is built around Restraint. It's that empty space around the headline that lets it breathe. It's a section that has room to exist instead of feeling crammed. Every element that earns its place makes a stronger case because nothing next to it is competing for attention. In essence, premium is what's left when everything that doesn't belong has been taken out. There's one thing Restraint alone can't fix, and that's when the images and visual elements themselves are the problem. The thing that makes a website look cheap usually isn't the layout, but the visuals that sit within it. Because if you're using the same generic color gradients or icon sets you've seen on 100 other sites, and a visitor has seen those things before, the whole site starts to feel like a template regardless of how well it's laid out. On premium builds, what we'll try and do is use custom visuals made specifically for that brand and nobody else. These are things like original photography, texture packs, illustration styles, the sort of things that you wouldn't find anywhere else. That's the layer that decides whether a finished site looks like a real brand instead of just a template with a few colours swapped around. Now, obviously, all of that only matters if someone actually makes it to the page. And that's where a lot of beautiful sites will fall apart. So most people, they treat page speed and search ranking as something to worry about after the site looks good. But that's the wrong order, because if the site loads slowly, or it doesn't show up when people search for it, or it doesn't appear in AI-generated answers, none of the other principles matter, because the visitor never even arrives. So sort out how fast your site loads and how easy it is to find before you start worrying about design. Because no matter how good that design is, if people can't find it or won't wait for it to load, all of that beautiful work just doesn't matter. And even when people do find it, launching the site isn't the last thing that you need to think about. A website is a system, and it shouldn't be treated like a project that you finish and just move on from. I've said this time and time again, but it's not something you build once, hand over, and just forget about. The products or the services that your site is promoting will inevitably change over time. The reviews and the testimonials will need to be updated, and the platform that it's actually built on will probably get updates that affect how things look and how they work. And the way search engines and AI tools decide what to show people keeps shifting, sometimes significantly, every few months. And so the launch isn't the end of anything. It's the beginning of an ongoing system. A site that gets left alone for a year is a site that's losing ground every single month. If you're a designer, you should always be offering ongoing maintenance to clients for this exact reason. And if you're a business owner, it's important to ensure that you have someone on your team, or obviously an external partner, who has full ownership of keeping your website up to date. That said, this next one is something a lot of designers do get wrong, which is thinking about who the site is actually built for once it's live. It's tempting to build something so customized and so complicated that only you know how to work on it. So the client has to keep coming back to you every time something needs changing. It'll feel like job security, but it's actually the opposite, because when a client who can't update a single line of text without raising a support ticket, or they have to wait 2 weeks and pay another invoice for a site they don't really feel like is fully taken care of, then they feel stuck. And clients who feel stuck don't send you referrals. So hand over a site that they can actually manage themselves, show them how to use it, and you become the designer that they recommend to everyone they know, instead of someone that they secretly resent. Ideally, yes, clients will always keep you on retainer, but future-proofing the system so that they don't have to is a skill in and of itself. Those designers who get recommended are almost always the ones who are doing more than just executing instructions. The worst thing a designer can do is just follow orders and do what they're told every single time. When a client says, make it look like our competitor site, so the designer just goes ahead and copies the layout, then they match the colors, they send it over, and then they move on. But a designer who thinks like a strategist is going to ask the questions that actually matter. Why do you want to look like a competitor? What is the site actually supposed to do for your business? Who is it really for? And 9 times out of 10, copying the competitor turns out to be the exact wrong move, even when they're targeting similar clientele. That kind of thinking is what AI cannot replace, and it's what clients are actually willing to pay a lot more for. The visual execution is something anyone can do. The judgment about what to build and why is what actually sets you apart. Quick note for the designers, everything I'm getting into now, the strategy, how to position yourself, systemizing, is exactly what I go deep on with the designers inside my community, The Margin. If you're trying to turn this craft into an income and not just a side hustle, that is the place to be. The link's in the description if you're interested. All right, back to it. Now, this next one is about how you study, because a lot of designers keep a collection of websites that, yes, they find visually impressive, screenshots saved for inspiration. And that's not useless per se, but it's only half the picture. You shouldn't be looking at why something looks good. You should try and understand why it makes you want to do something. So the next time you find a site that you admire, don't just take a screenshot of the top of the page and move on. Trace the whole experience. Where does your eye go first? What does the headline actually promise? Where does the proof show up relative to where they're asking you to take action? What is the one thing this page is trying to get you to do? A beautiful site is easy to copy, but an effective one is what you actually want to understand. And making a deeper analysis is exactly the point of this next one. Pick one platform to design your websites and go all in on it. The instinct early on is to learn a little bit about everything so you can say yes to every client, but that's a huge, huge trap. A generalist who kind of knows 5 platforms competes on price with everyone. Whereas on the other hand, you've got the specialist who is genuinely the best at one platform. They compete on nothing but being the best. I built my entire agency by going all in on a single platform instead of trying to spread myself thin across all of them. Depth is what lets you charge more. So let everyone else be the jack of all trades and laser focus on the one platform that lets you create the best work as efficiently as possible for your clients. Depth itself doesn't come from knowing more. It comes from building more. Most new designers think that the next course that they buy is the thing standing between them and actually getting good, but most of the time it's just not. You don't need to get good at web design by watching someone else do it. You get good by building the same kind of sites over and over until the decisions start coming naturally and quickly. So instead of buying another course, just go and build 10 sites. You can easily build a local business site, a personal brand, an online store, a software product landing page, whatever it may be. Build them badly at first, then over time, you're going to look back and just see how much better you've got with each one. The repetition is the real education. Everything else along the way just supports it. And if you sat there and you're thinking, oh, but I can't get these clients, it doesn't really matter. You can still build these sites and just get those reps in. Just because someone didn't pay you for it doesn't mean it isn't still great practice. Now, here's the thing a lot of designers don't want to hear. The skill isn't actually what's holding you back. Most designers who are stuck taking on those $500 projects aren't there because they're not good enough. They're there because of the number they're putting on their quotes. And a low price doesn't just mean less money. It changes type of clients that you attract. The person paying $500 will question every decision. They'll ask for endless revisions and almost never send anyone your way because cheap prices attract cheap clients. The people that will pay serious money will treat you like the professional that you are because the price that you charged told them that's what you are. Getting from a $500 quote to a $5,000 quote is mostly about believing that number yourself and then showing up in a way that backs it up. Because think about it, how much better would you be able to make a website if you got paid $5,000 for it? The skill ceiling isn't the problem for most designers. The price they're willing to ask for is. Now, obviously, you don't jump to 5K overnight, but if you are stuck at that $500 level, there is literally nothing stopping you from doubling it today and backing yourself. Some won't land, but some will. And as soon as you land a project at that new rate, it becomes your new baseline. And yes, I know it sounds very guru-like, but it's what worked for me and it's what's worked for thousands of my students as well. The other thing that's reshaping what this industry pays for right now is AI. So let's actually talk about it honestly. There are 2 camps right now. People who are convinced AI is going to replace every web designer. And then you've got designers who are convinced AI could never do what they do. But both of them are wrong in some way or another. What AI is actually doing is splitting the industry in 2. If the main thing that you bring to the table is the ability to put together a decent looking generic page, then yeah, AI can do that now. It can do it faster and it can do it cheaper than you can. And you're essentially competing with a tool that never sleeps and doesn't charge by the hour. But AI cannot make strategic calls, or at least it can't do it very well. It can't sit down with a business owner and figure out what their company actually needs beyond a base level analysis. When you hand it the whole job without any real direction, the results show it really clearly. Also, to put it bluntly, AI can't really design properly show-stopping experiences. If you are willing to continuously level up your design chops and your strategic knowledge, no AI will ever be able to compete with you, full stop. Use it to move faster on the parts that are straightforward and keep your own judgment on the parts that actually matter within a project. The designers who figured out that balance are the ones who are pulling ahead right now. Everything we've gone through up to now only really makes sense once you understand this last principle, which is one I'd keep above everything else on this list. Nobody actually wants a website. What they want is what the website is supposed to do for them, which always boils down to more sales. The designer who truly understands that stops focusing only on page count and starts selling results. And that changes everything, because the moment you're measuring a site solely on how it looks, you're a commodity. And there's always going to be someone out there who'll do it cheaper. But the moment you start measuring it by what it actually does, e.g. the leads it generates and the sales it contributes to, you're in a completely different situation. A situation that most people working in this industry don't even realize exists. So those are the principles, but knowing them and actually running them are two different things. And nobody is going to build all 16 at once. So if you're starting from scratch, or you've been doing this for a while and you want to dig in a little bit deeper, click this video here. I break down exactly how I'd learn web design today if I had to start over from zero, the skills in the order that I built them, what's a waste of time, and the mistakes that cost me years so you don't have to repeat them. I'll see you there.